Hello, world. Welcome to episode 13 of Webflail, the podcast dedicated to uncovering the greatest failures behind the greatest webflowers, because success often comes after learning from many failures. I'm your host, Jack, a failure connoisseur, and today my guests are Asmah and Nkenna, founders of the Black Pepper Studio, the multidisciplinary design, ideas, and experience studio for contemporary lifestyle brands. It's an honor to have you both here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's a big pleasure of ours to be on the show.
And it's the first time I've had both founders of an agency on the float. In fact, first time I've ever had just two guests at the same time. So it is a first for us all. And it's also the first time you guys have done a podcast together, right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Completely honored to be on the show.
Awesome. All right. Well, I hope that this is going to be a smooth experience as your first show together. So just to explain how this is going to work, we'll cover some intro questions, then we're going to get into the failures, and at the end of the episode, we'll get some questions from anyone that's listening in live, and some questions that I've got over Twitter. So that's how it's all going to work. So for anyone that's listening now, can you give us a little bit of background as to who you both are and how the Black Pepper Studio came to be?
I'll let you go on this one.
Okay. So I've pretty much been designing for, say, 10 years. I didn't have a formal education in design, but I've always kind of done it as a hobby and as like a side project sort of thing. But I've always been creative, but I've only known I was really creative kind of later my adult, like early adult, kind of early 20s. And so I was always doing like photography, always doing like collage work. I actually started doing more like photography and graphic work, so like collage and photo editing. And with my collage work, I did find that there was a lot of gaps in kind of like creative direction and gaps in kind of thinking beyond just putting out graphics into the world. And so that was where more bigger projects and ideation came to be. So it was like creative direction and then like thinking about the brand 360 experiences, not just like one graphic, one collage. And that's kind of how branding started. And at the time I was getting into branding, I had no idea it was this big immersive world of branding, brand experiences, website design, website development, packaging. It just almost felt like extending one graphic into something much more like immersive and much more comprehensive. And then started doing like branding work, and then the backlash just started slowly forming in. It wasn't a well thought out thing. Like I actually didn't sit down to think that, oh, we're going to start a studio, we're going to start an agency, or well, we call ourselves studio anyway. It was just kind of one work led to another. And I started getting clients that were asking for websites. And at the time, Nkenna and I were really close friends. We'd share like ideas together. And one of those projects just kind of led to, why don't you design a website? And literally the Black Pepper Studio. So it was when we kind of came together and started doing like all our stuff like for brands together. It was almost like we need to make this an actual business. We need to make this an actual profitable business that we could scale and our processes and system and that's kind of how the Black Pepper Studio came into be.
Yeah, just to add to what she was saying. So, I mean, she kind of already started doing design work. You know, when I met her, she was already a designer, you know, making stuff for different brands. And I was actually just an engineer. Like I had no idea about like websites, like what it was to make one and everything. And I was making like a website for a project of mine, just because I needed to just do something in Squarespace really quickly. And I showed it to her, and she was like, "This is really good. Like, have you ever thought about doing websites?" And in my head, it was like, "This is a joke. Like, you're just complimenting me because I'm your friend, right?" And then she had an inquiry, you know, because it was a branding project she was doing, and the person basically asked her whether she had somebody that could do websites. And she was like, "You can. Why don't you try this?" And I was like, "You're joking, right? Like, this is somebody's money. You're asking me to, you know, get on board with it." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Let's have this conversation." And you know, that just kind of kickstarted things into thinking, why don't I even try this, you know? And then, you know, over time I was like, you know, practicing Squarespace, but then I realized there were some limitations with it. And then from there I discovered Webflow, and then I started like, you know, getting a bit deeper into it. And from there, you know, just from there, like creating for the first client and then going from there. And it's just been like two friends just came together. We had no idea. We didn't plan this at all. Just like, you're good at this. Why don't you try this as well? And we just meshed together. We've been the Black Pepper Studios ever since.
That's a wild ride. That's crazy.
It is. And I think the kind of amazing thing as well is because it wasn't like a really sat down process or thinking, we've always just had to learn on the whim, like learn on the go. So everything like we've kind of put into place was kind of like, right, this is happening now, how do we fix it? How do we sort it out? But it's like looking back at where we started, we've been together at the studio for a year and a couple months.
Yeah.
But we've learned so much because there's two people like really skilled at what they do, but also coming in from, because Nkenna is coming from an engineering experience. So he's bringing like very practical, very like, does this really work mood into the studio? And obviously I'm very like creative and emotional. We seeing that our design styles really merge to bring like to present something that we feel is very foolproof, because we have two different backgrounds, two different like design experiences, design expertise and inspiration, but coming together to create one thing that works and serves brands and just like channel our design thinking into the world.
Yeah, and it just feels really organic because before even the studio conversation really started, she always used to send me her work. So like, oh, Nkenna, what do you think about this? And she used to say, I have a design eye because, I'll give like some feedback. And then since then, it's been what we've been doing before we had the idea for the studio, is kind of married into when we actually started the studio together. So it feels very organic where we bounce each other like ideas and like, let each other know what we're thinking and like direction that we could go and where we could see things a little bit better. So we were already doing this before the studio and we were doing it now. So it just feels very organic and it just kind of works and just, a very good solution to be honest.
And so in terms of kind of how you start a project together then, I mean, Asmah, you doing the design stuff and then you're like, okay, we need to translate this to a website, and then you both work on the wireframes together, and then Nkenna, you actually build it. Is that kind of how your relationship works in terms of going through the client process?
No, not necessarily. So she does mostly like branding work. So all the way from logos, color, typography, packaging, design, and that's what she's fully signed on. She doesn't really do any much of website work. I do the designs and the development. So we kind of see ourselves as kind of full service because we take our clients through that entire journey. So people come in and they want a foolproof brand, and what do they need? Obviously, they need the logo, typography, color. If it's an e-commerce product, they probably need some packaging, and then they start with that. And obviously, they want to get online and digital, so they need the websites. And then we just kind of take it all the way from probably starting with Asmah first, and getting their branding done, and we really translate that into the digital experience that we have. So that's why we see ourselves as kind of like that experiential studio that kind of walks through people doing different sides of design, right from getting your logo and your typography set right, and then walking your way into the digital world and getting that massive filling across your entire audience space. So we kind of cover that entire landscape and walking through that entire stage.
That's so cool. And Asmah, your aesthetic then, like for brand identities, it's really fascinating to see your work on your website, which I actually put in the chat now, just in case anyone's watching. But kind of how did you develop your design aesthetic? Or, I mean, I don't know if I should be asking you both this, maybe I should, but I get the impression that Asmah, you're doing the colors, typography, you're choosing that, those stylistic elements before then handing it off. How did you develop your design aesthetic?
I think it's a lot of practice and just observation as well, because I've always been creative, quote unquote, even before I knew what being a creative meant. And I've always been drawn to shapes and circles especially. And I think kind of leaning more into, I've always been a big like editorial and advert person. I always loved like magazines and newspapers and looking at editorial. And I think it was later when I realized I do actually like typography. Because kind of seeing like logos, especially like luxury brands, seeing how they play with words and typography and the layout as well. So a lot of my kind of creativity spanned from editorial and advert work, and then the kind of composition of an imagery. So composition of an editorial, so imagery, color, typography, and then your identity like logo. translated into kind of my design aesthetic and what I do now. So I'm always just having like that editorial mindset. But I think it's a lot of observation. I'm always flicking through papers. I love tactile print. I'm a big, huge print fan. So I'm always collecting print and kind of looking at how things translate into print, into tactile form. Observation and experimentation. I think experimentation has kind of gotten me to the point I am now, being really confident, because I've tried a lot of things, both like from the studio, client project, but also loads of like personal work. And because I used to do graphics for a really long time, I've kind of been able to build a composition eye, so I almost know where things work and how things place next to each other. So observation and experimentation for sure.
And it's fascinating how that then translates onto the website. Like your studio website is one of the most creative studio websites I've seen. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, I've looked at a lot of different studio websites over the last couple of years, and there's a lot of creative studio websites, but yours does feel like very unique in terms of colors, fonts, composition, and layout. So it's incredible how you guys have got like a kind of print editorial style, but then translated to digital. I think it's really, really unique.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think the fascinating thing is, going back to what I was saying about both our styles coming together, is we have completely different. So we kind of approach design differently. Nkenna is really practical and really like pragmatic in design, and I'm more emotional. So I'm kind of a designer that I go on, how does it make me feel? Because I come from an arts background. I think I should probably say that I used to be an artist way before I was a designer. So when I see a lot of collage and graphic, they were mainly subjective artwork. They weren't for client usage. So I come from a very subjective, emotional design standpoint, but Nkenna comes from a practical design standpoint. So I think that's probably one of our biggest blessings coming together, is that we've been able to really balance that out. And I think it's amazing to see, because I think it's kind of the best of both worlds, really. And I think that's kind of what you see when you see our works, is we are able to really bring those two sides together and create something that is wholesome but also humane as well, but still it's very tangible. It answers questions, it solves problems, but also it's very relatable at the same time.
Yeah. And Nkenna, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think it's like, as much as you even say like, the styles are very different, I think our styles are still kind of very similar, maybe just different in terms of like the initial approaches and how we really walk about it. But I think we kind of both inspired a lot by editorial work, and especially like the Renaissance work, and seeing old classics as well, Greek type of layout, and the whole ethos of composition. The fundamental principles of design, we are very, very much together on that idea. We do have like maybe contrast in terms of like, oh, like put this here, like for example, like we talk about, she was saying like put the circle here, and I'm like, what is the circle doing there, like what's its purpose? And then we like find ways of like, okay, if we're going to put it there, then we should find a purpose in it. So it's there, it's still getting that both sides of, okay, it's a creative aspect, but at the same time it's not being functional, and just merging those two worlds where it becomes, it's not just there for any reason, but you're getting the best of both worlds. And I think that's where we really kind of work together, in that sense of like, imagine those two ideas together, basically.
Yeah, and that push and pull. There's a quote that I'm definitely going to butcher, but isn't there a quote about design? The difference between design and art is that design solves a problem, whereas art creates an emotional reaction.
Definitely.
And it sounds like you've got that. Yeah.
But I think that's also kind of one of the biggest changes that I met in my career when I transitioned from art, was art is so subjective. I mean, subjective, you create things based on your emotion or your feelings, but design is completely different. You have to always have a rationale for everything you do. You always have to kind of have your design thinking for everything that you do. So yes, definitely.
And then there's not just doing artwork because of the feel, but also then creating brand identities and websites for clients. And there's a business side to it as well. It's not just problem solving, but it's also there's finding clients, creating work that compels them to pay you, and things like that. So that segues into your failures, which I'd like to get into now, if that's all right with you. Tell me about failure number one: not having a website or portfolio to showcase your work early enough.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that really came because we used to get a lot of inquiries. And although they had seen that, you send them example websites and stuff, but I think that idea of just having a collected place where they can actually just view your work, or even like just send that website to somebody else on the team to just have an idea of the breadth of what they do, was actually a very big limitation, especially like early on in the year when we were already kind of been working on the website. We knew we wanted to do it very well. And present the best possible work, but obviously we did see areas where some inquiries come in and it's like, okay, can you send me a website? Or I go on your website and it's passive productive, like, can I see something? Like, I want to see it in a collected place. It was a bit of a stumbling block in terms of getting to the final stage of closing on clients, because some people just wanted to be like, I'm coming to you to build a website, I've not seen your website. So I think that was one area that led us to, I think we did have some places where we were not able to close fully because we didn't have a full portfolio to really show that full breadth of work, as opposed to when we're just sending them links. But I think we've seen a definitely massive ton since we put out the portfolio out, where people can just easily see their work. So now when they get on calls, they're not necessarily asking for the reference work, they're even referencing our work. Oh, I saw this on your website, or you did this for this brand, I want my website to have the same feel. So I think it's definitely a thing that is very important to have, and it would definitely help you in terms of like closing out perspectives. And it's very important, and it's something that we should have probably maybe started sooner. But I mean, we're here now, and we're quite happy with how it's turned out, and pushing on from there.
Yeah, but also I think with that period of stressful, because we did the Black Press Studio had a website when it was kind of still me solo running brand identities. But when Nkenna came on board and I saw how amazing it was, the website that we had just looked absolute rubbish. So we had to take it down because we felt like the work that we genuinely wanted to do wasn't being reflected in the kind of website that we had. And because we also had like loads of clients project coming in, bits and bobs, and we also knew that we wanted this website to be something that really encapsulates us. We know we weren't going to rush it, so we went months, almost a year actually, without having the website. And that period was so stressful because we had to send like PDFs of our portfolio work. We had to direct clients to Instagram, but anything as well with like third-party platforms like Google Drives or creating a PDF portfolio or Instagram is it's not, you can't fully express yourself, you can't fully lay out or arrange projects the way that you'd like. And so it was so stressful because we almost had to kind of redo our portfolio for every single client that came in, because there was always something to kind of tweak, or there was always something, or if a client came for a website, we felt our portfolio was still brand identity or packaging, we had to like reshuffle the whole thing. So it was so stressful. But now with the website, it's almost like go onto our website and see what we're about, because the website not only contains our work for clients to kind of see what we've done for other brands, but it also shows clients our style. I think that's the most important thing about our website. Our portfolio now is that you can go on it and see what our styles are like. So even we've had clients that I've said, I've not seen you do any work in this vertical, but I've seen that your style, I've seen your eye, I've seen your design ideologies, and I would like to work with you because we're very similar in our design style.
So what advice would you guys give to someone that's starting out? Maybe they have got requests for projects and they're doing the work, but they're also getting requests for their website and they don't have it. I mean, would you suggest not taking on projects until you have some kind of portfolio site with at least 3 bits of work or something? Or what would you do differently in hindsight?
I think first of all, in terms of like projects, you can always have a pet project inside yourself. You don't have to have like a client work out there. I mean, it would be good to have like client work, but at the same time, people just want to see, can you translate my vision? That's what every client wants to see. Whether it's real or not, they just want to see, oh, I like that. You did that at the end of the day, because whether it's a real client or not, you usually were still able to do that particular animation that they may have wanted, or implemented the functionality that they wanted for some time. Webflow is actually a good platform because you can actually create all of these projects for free if you have like an account plan and showcase that work. So I would definitely say it would be good to have the minimum viable out as much as possible. Like, you don't necessarily have to have it fully built out in your head. It can just be like a place where you just post your work. You don't have to have a homepage and contact me or whatever. People just want to see the work in a collected place. So if you could do some pet projects, put that together into one showcase. It can be your mini showcase of your work, and where you can see, some of the work that you've done. That would be really, really, really helpful. So that would be my advice. And then from there, you can actually build up to now I want to flesh out and show my true creativity, but at least just have that starting ground first and build up on what you want.
Yeah, but I definitely think people get so emotional about their portfolio. Like that is their baby, right? And I've seen people and I'm guilty of this as well, like redesign their portfolio every year. It doesn't need to be redesigned, but they're just like, no, it's not right. I've got to redo it. Do you guys think, because you clearly have, a lot of emotion poured into your website, I mean, I know the advice that you're giving is just get something up and it's there, but you guys didn't do that. So,
seriously, yeah, because
you really poured effort into your website, and it's such an emotional piece of work. Like it's not just thrown together. Like you've clearly put a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Do you think that website should be your best piece of work?
No, I think because we weren't starting out, quote unquote, like we had already started doing work. So we had the project to actually showcase as well. And I think because we had also gotten to a point where we both realized the kind of clients that we wanted to actually work with. So when at the beginning, we were still kind of taking on clients that came to us. But at the moment we kind of understood our vertical, we understood our positioning, we knew that we had to create a website that would attract those clients. But I think also because we had the body of work to actually put on the website, we had the content, we had loads of content from previous projects. So we're able to kind of look at our content and build a website off of that and off of the fact that we knew the clients. So we were future facing with our website and not like in the present. So I think definitely I think it's almost like looking at yourself at the stage that you are. If you could, I mean, we're doing PDF portfolios, we're referring clients to Instagram. If that could work for you in the meantime, I mean, why not? Might as well go ahead and do it if you feel like you need to put your absolute best out there. Because I'm one for start with what you have, but I'm also one for go the extra mile if you can as well. So I think it's finding a balance between those two things. It's thinking, and I think it's individual to every creative or every agency or every studio. It's thinking, do I have enough to put out a website, a really good portfolio? Or if I don't, can I start with what I have now while I'm obviously future facing and thinking to where I want to go?
Right. And just to add to that, I think you're totally right in terms of like when you're creating for yourself is actually the hardest. When I started designing the website, I remember the first 2 iterations I didn't even show it to her because I felt this is rubbish. Like there's no way, this is no stand for anything I'm trying to do for. Because we had a discussion about it in December last year. And then I started working on the first draft in January. I didn't like it. I came back to in February. I didn't like it. I was like, nope, this is no way. It's not going to cut it. This is not. I'd rather have nothing than show any of these things I'm putting together. Because I was very emotionally tied to the work. I knew the direction that we had set together to showcase the clients and even showcase our body of work and what we wanted to feel. And I felt it was not really working out. So I had to put it off. So I wasn't even going against the advice I'm probably even giving a bit. And then I had to come back to it a couple of months later when I was in a much clearer headspace before I started, it then started flowing together. So it can be very hard because you're doing it for yourself and you know the ideas and the vision that you're trying to take it. And even when you're even doing it, at the same time, you want to put your best foot forward. Because I was really guilty about that, especially when I was developing the website and there was still some areas that I felt like, oh no, actually I don't like that. But I think you don't have to get to the point of perfection because I know there's many things that I could still improve on our website. And I was even saying to her, actually next year we're going to change that projects page. That's what I was literally saying. So it's there's areas that you can improve and there will always be areas where you can improve. But what can you put out right now that would work for you? And right now, when I got to a place where I felt this works for me, this translates some of the ideas I'm trying to showcase to prospective clients, or we showcase to ourselves, because again, we were not just designing for the clients, we're designing it for ourselves to really this is the embodiment of the work that we try and create. When we got to a place where it felt this is nearer to it, it was I'm handing off now and I'm just putting that out there to the world to manifest. So when you get to that place, it's best for you to just go ahead from there.
And I think sometimes as well, letting it out into the world, actually you learn from that. Because with our website, when we put it out, when we actually started sending it to real life people, not as a testing this time, because I think you can keep testing for ages, but we actually let go and we put it out in the world. We actually started seeing some use cases that may not necessarily fit or some things that we wanted to change, but that was only possible because the website was out. There's almost like a freedom that comes when you let it go, and then you can kind of learn bite size as opposed to turning everything upside down and changing the whole thing. So I think, yeah, definitely letting it go can actually really be a good thing, because there's always you can always improve on anything anyway.
Agreed. I definitely resonate with the fact that, you know, you are looking at it with a critical eye while you're doing it, and you're just like, I want this to be perfect, but at the same time you need to put something out, so there's this kind of push and pull. But also the fact that once it's live, at least it's out there, and now you can iterate upon that when the time's right. Can I just circle back to something that you said, Asmah, there, working out where you are as a creative, what your focus should be in terms of the website? Should you be making the most beautiful portfolio piece? Do you have enough work to be able to even do that, etc.? And one thing that you said there was knowing who your clients are. You know your brand positioning, you know who you want to attract, and as a result you decided to put a lot of effort into the website because that is your showpiece. So how did you know who your clients were? Had you just worked with enough people by that stage, or how did you know it was contemporary lifestyle brands?
Yeah, we had so from kind of personal preferences in life in general, because I've worked in fashion, I've worked in luxury retail, so I always gravitated towards the luxury industry. So it was almost a no-brainer that I started working with brands in lifestyle. But then when we started the Breakfast Show together as well, some of the brands that were already on board for brand identity naturally pivoted into website, and so we found that. Kind of looking at our mood boards and aesthetics, we also turned out it can also really like working with lifestyle brands as well. And so when we looked at our skills, our experiences, and our passion, it literally just fits into contemporary lifestyle. And so we knew that we were going to do ourselves a huge disservice if we went outside our vertical, if we went to another industry that didn't fit our experience, passion, and that was the last one I said. But basically, skills, yes. So that was how we kind of defined the brands that we wanted to work with, because we've had the experience and we knew that we could deliver on those brands, but also because we knew we liked working with those brands. We have experiences with those brands. We are audiences and consumers of those brands, so we kind of fit in that industry anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, do you want to go, Nkenna?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that is a case of like, at the same time, once you're a designer, I think some people do get locked up in the idea of, the clients are always choosing you. I think sometimes you have to remember yourself, you're also choosing to take on this project. So it's really about, what am I inspired by? Would doing this work actually make me feel like I am really connected? So you also need to be very connected to your work to produce the best possible work. It's almost like, if you've never played basketball before, there's less chances that you just walk into a court and just want to be throwing hoops and be so passionate about it. So you're always choosing, like, I want to go to this particular place. I want to take on this particular client because I am much more involved in this work. I'm more passionate about this work. So already identifying the things that you're always passionate about. I mean, I had already looked up and really liked how editorial felt. So I always knew that when somebody comes to me and wants that kind of editorial layout type of idea, this is the kind of work that I want to do, and be able to express ourselves rather than feeling very constricted by, just put this hero banner here and put it A, B, and C here. It's not the kind of work that we're connected to, so we know we won't possibly provide the best possible work. So because we only understand ourselves and the things that we're inspired by, the things that we want to create, we kind of choose or navigate towards that vertical in some sense. But kind of I also say that we've been kind of fortunate to have lots of inquiries that already fit into that space already. So it's already made us feel like, okay, yeah, this is coming in. I like doing this type of work, and this has made me sort of defy the idea that I really want to be in this space as opposed to something else.
I love what you just said there, that clients don't just choose you, you choose clients. And that, coming off what Asmah said as well, this kind of trifecta of skills, experience, and passion, it sounds like just a very, very natural fit, because I think a lot of young designers and webflowers, me included, you know, you look at a niche that's like lawyers, dentists, you know, like I see so many people that are like, I'm a construction webflower or whatever.
Yes.
Like, but you know nothing about construction. You're clearly just like a shark. Okay, maybe that's a bit unfair, but as in, like, you know, people are just choosing things depending on quite, maybe, I don't know if this is fair, but quite superficial reasons. And it sounds like a very, very natural fit for you guys to choose the clients that you have, but also that those clients are naturally choosing you. And there's that symmetry there. So kudos to you guys. Briona says, really great advice. I think about this a lot. And Ethan is absolutely loving your website. Dope website.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's get on. Sorry.
Are there any upcoming designers that I haven't kind of fleshed out what industry they want to work in? I think two things I would suggest is kind of looking back on your life. I know it might sound cliche or deep, but looking back at the things that have always interested you or the things that you've always liked, because at the end of the day, that would kind of show your life, like your past life shows you what your future, like it's almost future facing. And so I think kind of looking back at the things you've always liked, and even if it's not a direct interpretation to what you can do creatively, I think there's always a nuance that you can go around that. So I think don't stray too far from what you've already done or stray too far from who you are. But I think also it doesn't hurt to try get your hands on a number of different projects in different industries as well. I think experience is amazing in situations like this. So you could have passion projects in a couple of industries that you might be thinking of, industries that you've probably seen other people working in, and that would be the best judge of how people either receive it or how best your skill set fits into those, and then you can easily pivot into the industry. But I would definitely advise that niche down based on just that passion, experience, and skills, because projects, they are fun from the outside, but when you're actually on them for hours and days and months and weeks on end, they can get a lot. And if you have, I think passion is absolutely important. Honestly, I wouldn't underrate passion, because passion keeps you going when clients' work becomes too much or client work becomes something that feels exhaustive. Passion keeps you going. So I think definitely work with something that you have passion for and you would excel. The skill and experiences will come naturally and you grow from there.
I love this advice about trying out different niches or different industries and then niching down, because I think a lot of people hear the advice, niche down, and they're like, okay, niche, I am a dentist, Webflow, whatever. And actually what they haven't done, like you say, is kind of work out, if money was no object, what would they be spending their time doing? What project would they like to be making? What would they do for fun? And and that's going to kind of lead the way in terms of the clients that choose you and the clients you should maybe be choosing as well. I love this idea of past showing your future as well. I haven't heard that. I've written that down, actually. I will quote you though. Don't worry. I'll give you the credit. I'll give you the credit, Asmah. So let's get on to failure number 2 then. Not having detailed project agreements that protected us from project mismanagement.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to take this one? Ooh.
I think it's kind of everything that you said, because the Black Belt Studio kind of started out me just doing things that I love, like coming from that art side and knowing that I wanted to make money from things that I like doing, but it wasn't necessarily a studio, it wasn't necessarily like a business. So it was just kind of, I'd say like it was like a freelancing phase. We had a freelancing phase for a bit. Where we were still kind of figuring out if it's something that we wanted to do, could we even do it? And I think I was in like consultancy jobs part-time for luxury brands, and Nkenna was also getting his hand on a couple of things as well. So we were in like 100% Black Belt Studio then, and so we didn't genuinely have time for agreement. We didn't have time for processes or systems, and so clients just came in. We would type an invoice, sent to them, and it was a lot of mess. Honestly, it was just a downward spiral of complete messes. I think the incredible thing about that phase was we learned drastically from every single project. So we would learn from project A and put all that learning into project B. And literally what actually happens without even knowing that we were creating agreements or project scopes, because we had learned from project A, everything that we learned, we put it into like a form or like a type it out for project B, and slowly we were actually building our agreements up until the point where we had projects that really hit us, that we started working with bigger clients as well, that started sending us NDAs, and we also knew we had to get structures in place, especially we started working on longer term projects, and we knew that we had to get some kind of formality, housekeeping in place to keep everyone sane throughout the project. The failure that in that phase was, it was very stressful, but it was very time consuming, but it was also our mental health was in a really bad place, because you get clients that come to say, can I have this deliverable? Because there wasn't any agreement that sort of said this is XYZ deliverable you're having. We had to always struggle with, do we have to give the client our reputation, the fee? It was a lot of thinking, a lot of mental health strain that we had that period. And I think we definitely can never take on any project, no matter how little, without a full project agreement, for sure. Big advice, even if it's just a couple words. And I think the thing with our agreements is we were going to go like full legal, but we set ourselves that there wasn't any point putting in clauses in our agreements that that didn't fit our services, or that weren't like adapted to our experiences and learnings. So our agreement now is foolproof in that we learn from a past project, and whatever it is that we did wrong, or whatever it is that went wrong, we reflect it in the next project agreement. So our agreement is ever changing and adaptable as we go along and as we learn as a business. And I think that really helps us, because we know that we're not just putting some legal jargon, it was actually real life. And because we're also talking to like real life clients as well, it's nice that there's an agreement that fits both the client and both ourselves.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that part, it's one of those things where, to be honest, you never really foolproof, because I mean that's the idea. You go to one law firm, but then there's a loophole that they're not aware of, and you have to go to a bigger law firm because they've experienced this kind of thing. So again, kind of walking through your own journey as a freelancer or an agency or studio, you're going to be learning different things, and you pick up that and transfer that into the next project. So I think it's definitely one of those transferable learnings or transferable failures that you have to evolve over time, because new projects, you have different personalities, different ideas of how clients want to work. So until you just step into this particular industry or particular vertical, you won't necessarily know. For example, it can be like a client from a different country, and maybe they have different ways or different laws that guide them possibly. So it's like you're going to be learning with each particular person, and adapting your situation to those learnings, basically.
And so, just so we're clear, if there's someone watching that's like, okay, I'm currently in the messy freelancer phase, how do I get out of it? You guys obviously, learned through every client, like you say, but is there any advice that you would give to kind of anyone that's watching now that's like, I'm in the messy freelancer phase, help?
Yeah. I think, to be honest, there are quite a bit of a number of resources out there. If you do have, I mean, I'm not expecting like you're starting, Webflow tomorrow and you're already having to go and hire a legal team, or you're foolproof in that sense. So, but if there are people around you who are like, for example, you have a friend who's a lawyer, or somebody who's also been an agency person, you can have a chat, like speak to your friends, people who are learning with you as well, like what have they learned, how do the project agreements look like, and basically take a look at those. I mean, there's definitely sample drafts online that you can basically do your research as well and try to understand what people include. I mean, we're in a digital age now where things are really out there. You can go on YouTube and you can see what other people are putting in their contracts. So trust it's possible to do your research yourself, communicate with your friends. If you have anybody that's legally inclined or doing the same space with you, try and learn from them, and then build up from there. And then you can take it on there, and, depending on how you want to go. But I think there's enough resources around you for you to actually pick up a few things here and there. You don't have to know it all the way from the beginning.
So when you guys are talking about agreements, then are you talking about, okay, here's the contract, then here's the project scope, like here's the deliverables, here's when we're going to get them to you. I mean, how would you say I was a luxury brand and I was coming to you right now today? What would be the process be for that work to get done?
Yeah.
So is that the agreement?
So I mean, are you talking about, when you say the words agreement, are you talking about a legal contract, like a legal document? Yeah, you are.
Yeah, so like a contract, yes.
Yeah.
But we say an agreement because we try to make it feel personable. Because what we learned, that I was saying about we actually went full legal, but we realized there's a lot of jargon that even we didn't understand. And we had a legal personnel, but at the end of the day, we had clients coming back we spent ages on just filling out contracts, because clients come back and what does this clause mean? What does that clause mean? But the most important thing was that a lot of those contracts weren't actually foolproof for us, for our services. So we kind of stripped back the whole thing and looked at all our learnings and created like a legal agreement. So it was basically an agreement that we put before the clients and before ourselves. So our agreement actually both ways. Expectations from the designer, expectations from the client as well. So our argument is not only client facing. It's things that we've also learned that we would like to hold ourselves to high esteem in front of the client, and we put all of that in an agreement and we send to the client and say, this is an agreement binding the project. Sign it, acknowledge it, and we can only go forward with the project once both parties have agreed to go ahead with the project.
Disclaimer: this is not legal advice, so you should definitely.
I know. Just
I mean, just stuff that works for us based on experience.
So, but I think that the most important part is, at the same time, it is very legal. But I think what we mean is we've stripped it down from what are the things that are not necessarily applicable, and making it very simple for everyone to be very cohesive and understand what is actually inside of the agreement. And the way we say it is more is, we're including things that are really protecting us and protecting our clients at the same time. So we include things like, how many the number of revisions. So it's stated in there that, for example, if you go above A, B, and C, there's a charge for that, or who owns the rights to work, and all of those things that is very clear. So that it's not just a black hole when, for example, we want to show, like, do we have the rights to even showcase the work on our portfolio? So we just think that it's very clear for both parties to understand who gets what, how is this going to work in the future. So it still covers the whole legal grounds, because of course it's a legal document and we follow the legal procedures. But I think what we mean is we strip it down to what is really applicable. What are those nuances that come in on a day-to-day basis that you want to know about, and we also want to protect ourselves about, and making it very simple for it to be very personable and relatable to our business and the client's work as well.
Okay, then. So the most important things for any young freelancer to have in an agreement are, can I showcase this work? Yes. Yeah, because I think that's one big thing that's, you might post the work and then the client's like, what are you doing? It's like, what? I thought this is my work, your project, but my work kind of thing. And then, that can get a bit messy. And then the other thing that you talked about there was making sure that everyone is clear about the deliverables, how many revisions you can have. What does a revision even mean? Like, things like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, we strip it down to milestones as well. We have all our milestones. We have fee covering milestones. We have timeline covering milestones. So it gets very nitty-gritty so that everyone fully understands. Yeah. But yeah, our only goals would be portfolio rights, timeline, revisions, fees.
Yeah. And for anyone that's watching as well, I mean, in terms of the kind of milestones that you're talking about there, do you take 25% up front, 25% in the middle, 50% at the end, or do you kind of take payments throughout the project and get things signed off along the way so that you don't return to them? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the latter. That's it. Yeah. So we sign off. We wouldn't go into milestone 2 if milestone 1 isn't signed off. Because again, part of what we learned not having an agreement, we used to have projects that mumbo jumbo the whole way in. So now we wouldn't get onto milestone 2 if milestone 1 isn't signed off and the allocated fee is paid, and then we go into milestone 2.
Yeah. I've only just started doing this recently, and I wish I knew about this earlier, that if someone agrees with the brand identity, and then you go to the wireframes, and then you go to the website, that you can't go back to any of the previous processes, like actually getting the client to sign off, as in write their signature and say, this is done and I am happy with it, we can move on, has been a big learning for me as well. So yeah, appreciate you guys sharing that. I definitely think this is one that if anyone is listening and is in the messy freelancer phase, that is, if there is one big takeaway, I promise you that is really, really helpful and important. Tell me about failure 3, not having a lead generation strategy to avoid the feast or famine cycle.
So I think, again, it's kind of starting out on Blackbird Studio. We had a lot of referrals, and it almost felt like things were naturally working for the studio. We were busy, we were doing work that we loved. We didn't think about what happens when this well dries up. And so we were in that bubble of, we're a studio, we're growing, and honestly, it literally just dried up completely. And we're like, wait, what do we do now? Like, where do we go from here? And we started researching and realized there was this whole lead gen strategy. There was this whole like client marketing. So because we actually never did any marketing. And because we didn't have a website as well, it wasn't even easy doing marketing. So we actually didn't do any marketing for the first couple months. It was all like referrals, people that we had known personally in like personal life and like past work that we've done. So yeah, it was a huge dip in the business because we had just kind of evolved into a studio, but we had no clients. And I think we also went in that deep hole as well, because we had also then realized our positioning, but also then realized we're very set on the clients that we wanted to work with. Some of the clients that we had already worked with were not necessarily clients that we wanted to continue working with. So we were getting a number of referrals, but they weren't referrals that kind of fit into our future-facing studio. So it was having to re-strategize to find the clients I wanted to work with, but it was also really learning the very hard way that you always need to put lead generation in place. Even if you're at your max, always have your strategies to attract new clients every single time. You're better overbooked than underbooked. I think with proper time management, with proper project management, you can scale up projects a couple months ahead of you, as opposed to waiting until you're done and then trying to look for clients all the time.
So can you give us a high-level overview of your lead generation strategy then? I mean, do you have kind of different things like, I don't know, a referral scheme and, I'm going to post on Twitter every day, or like, can you give us a little bit of an idea about your lead generation strategy?
I think the first part is we try as much as possible never to forget showcasing the work, because at the end of the day, it's the work that speaks for you. So we try to remember as much as possible that, yes, we're done with the website, we're done with, having that relationship with a particular client, but it doesn't just stop there. What are the ways in which we can create, make sure the work that we've done, based on the experiences that we've had, and putting out the work in other platforms as well can start, because a lot of a good amount of stuff did come from, putting our work out on awards and winning some awards. So definitely having the work out there where people can organically themselves, streamline and find you is really important. So I think the best possible thing is, as much as possible, what are the avenues I can channel this creative work that it doesn't stay in my bubble between me and that particular client, where it becomes a thing where the outside world can see it. So whether it be via Instagram, Twitter, putting it on different platforms, and just showcasing the design, because people are always interested to look at things, and you never know who's looking. So as much as possible, put out the work. So I would say in summary, that really is the idea of our lead generation. Showcase your work. Like, yes, you've done it, but showcase it, because you've done it, but it's that's a particular client's world, and where it's only about their customers coming to the website, but people want to see that, oh, you did this, oh, you're the one that designed the Apple website. Now people know who you are, and they definitely want you to make their website. So you need to showcase that website or brand identity and packaging that you've done, and put it out there to the world to see.
And I think because we're very, I think the studio is pretty much run on, I say 90% referrals, if I'm correct, our statistics. So we run a lot of referrals. Yes, our referral rate's really heavy. So we make sure that we are also doing passionate work. and we're giving our 100% every project because we know every client is a potential source of work for us. It's a potential mouthpiece for the studio, actually. And I think we're very happy that we have a very high referral rate, because I think that speaks to the kind of work that we do. But we also always make sure we check in with clients every couple months. So we have a timeline in place. We check in with clients to see how they're getting on with the website, and they're getting on with their identity. We ask for testimonials from clients. We started doing a thing where we ask clients for birthdays, and we say brand birthdays. So happy brand birthday on their brand's birthday. So like checking in with clients, we realize keeps us top of mind, but also lets like clients know that we care about their brand, and not just it's not just from a monetary point of view. Like, we are very passionate about the brands that we work with, because we kind of define the brand we want to work with. So that also shows we do not take clients for granted. We do not take the work that we do for granted. So I think putting in 100% also naturally just leads into us getting much more projects as well, naturally.
Yeah.
But that also comes with work. That also is a strategy as well, because it comes with work. It comes with putting in the work, but also checking in with clients every now and then, every often, and also making sure that we keep the clients that we work with close, because they're already in the door. So we keep them close. We keep everyone quite close knit. So that way we're always top of mind.
I mean, to be honest, I think it's become. I think we don't necessarily think about that particular aspect as if necessarily a strategy, but more like a relationship that we've already built upon. Because, like I said, we're very passionate about the work that we do. So naturally, we already have that relationship. But so it's like, based on that relationship that we've already built upon, it then, in some sense, transpires to a strategy. Because if I did a website for you, Jack, like we're friends and we talk every day, you're most likely to be like, oh, your other friends, has a website they want, or they need this packaging. You're most likely to say, oh, I have this couple of guys that are really cool, get on board. So because we already have that kind of close relationship that we built upon, it's kind of turned into a strategy that definitely works for us in terms of bringing back clients in place.
Yeah, and also the fact that, if you just use the word friends there, like, if you're treating them like you want to be treated, and, you bring them joy, happiness from their website and work, they're going to want to give their friends that same experience that you've given them. Exactly. And as a result, it makes a lot of sense to kind of stay on top of that. Do you guys do retainers as well? I mean, it sounds like a lot of your work is new projects, and you're focusing on getting potentially like new client work from these referrals. But do you guys also offer retainers, or is that something that you'd advise against, or how do you approach that?
I think retainers are wonderful. We have some packaging and website projects that we were lucky to work with brands that bring out new packaging line or new product line, and we always do the packaging, or have to include like new SKUs on the website, and they'll come to us for all of the website maintenance. And so we do some retainers for sure, definitely, and we also advise it as well, because that's like a recurring source of income, and because you've already kind of established that first relationship with the client, you're foolproof working in the future, because one, you've gotten all the housekeeping done, but also you understand the client's aesthetics, their needs, their wants. So you're smooth sailing, working towards the other extension of the project. But we also, with some retainers as well, they've actually come in bigger than the actual work the client came in with as well. So we've seen that some retainers also brings us from the same client bigger scope of work than whatever it is that we've done for them at the beginning. So yeah, definitely advice. We don't have a lot of retainers at the moment, but we have a couple of retaining clients, and we definitely advise towards getting retaining clients.
Yeah, I think on the other end of the scale of that is also when it comes to websites specifically, the goal is not necessarily for us to really hone in on a retainer. So when we're building our website for clients, so we want them to be very comfortable managing the website. So the retainer aspect will come in place where they really, don't want to necessarily do anything about the website and just need somebody that's in charge of that. But when it comes to clients who actually want to get, be able to do things themselves, we try as much as possible. We don't pride ourselves on, we built a website like you don't even know how to put in a new image, for example. So we try as much as possible that we're educating the clients at the end of it. We do a CMS training at the end to show them how they can update content on their website, and making sure that they are very comfortable in dealing with anything that springs upon. And the only case where they necessarily need us is like, they want to build out a new page and they want a new design, or, their ideas have changed and they want to, input a new feel to the website or something like that. That's the only place where they really stay in place. But when it comes to the day-to-day running of the websites, we want you to be very comfortable with having your website by yourself, or onboarding a new staff or trainee who's going to be in charge of that to feel very comfortable doing that. So when I say we're not necessarily looking for it, but we're happy to entertain that, and we take on some of those. But the goal is not that you need to come to us to be on a retainer type of thing. It's not necessarily about the money, but it's a case of maybe you just don't have enough time to deal with that, or your scope has extended beyond what you initially had an idea for. So yeah, that's the ideas behind that.
And I think we give very detailed brand guidelines as well. We give our brand guidelines contain loads of examples for content, for graphics, for layout, for newsletters. So we actually find and realize that a lot of clients, we're giving them a foolproof kit to go out and utilize all the resources and all the creatives that we've done for the brand, all the assets that we created for the brand. So we actually always talk about when we see clients doing, like, using updating the website and using the kind of brand assets in the way that we've designed it. So I think a lot of what we do here is not retaining a strategy, but I think it's kind of giving making the brands feel confident that we've created something that can stand its test of time, but also something that they understand as well, and not just fancy looking websites or fancy looking graphics that no one touches, or they have to always keep coming back, because it gets frustrating after a while, for sure. But as Nkenna said, we do get retainers when they need to update products, packaging, things that need a whole creative thinking or creative direction. Then they'll come to us because we've already worked with their brand, we understand them, and we can build out those add-ons to the brand.
It's interesting how your personalities, you seem to be just like organically, like, this is how things should be done, this is how I want to be treated, and this is how I want to treat my clients as a result, rather than like, here's the 5-step strategy that we use. Like, you're just like, this is why our clients keep referring us. It's give them a really, really good service because that's what we want to do. And I think that's refreshing in a world where it seems to be like, here's the 8-step process to get your client in and out the door as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Which
that really comes from loving what you do. I think that's why I said about passion. If you really love what you do and you're genuinely interested in growing, getting to the maximum point that you can get, you learn patience is such a virtue. If we don't get retaining clients today, we're not as hurt as if the client goes out in the wild with something we created for them and they're coming back 2 weeks saying, how do I do XYZ? Because that puts a lot of more work for us and more stress. Yes, you might be able to charge a client for this XYZ, but realizing that the client not being able to understand that how to use this asset actually comes from a difficulty that you've put in place, not an ease that you've put in place.
Yeah. No, I really like the way that you don't want to make it difficult for your client so that you get a retainer. Like, you're trying to give them everything they need in order to succeed, and I think that's really important.
Because they come to us for solutions, so we should not be problems for them. So you only come to us or retain us because you need more solutions to things that we haven't already solved to you. So I think that's the best way possible to put it, that you only come to us for new solutions rather than coming to us because there's a problem with the solution that we claim that we've solved for you.
Boom, there is the soundbite right there. Let's get into the quickfire community questions. I got sent some questions from people, and so you don't need to answer these in less than a minute or anything. They're just kind of quick questions. What is success for Black Pepper Studio? Where do you guys want to get to? There's a really easy, quick question for you guys there.
That's a difficult one.
That's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's actually a difficult one.
That's actually.
I think it's something that we're still kind of discussing in-house as well, and kind
exactly.
of realizing what is a dream for the Black Pepper Studio. I think at the moment we're just we understand where we want to go, and we're being patient enough to take it each day as it comes.
Yeah.
But the big dream, I mean, kind of what we've discussed, if I can put that out, is being renowned in the contemporary lifestyle space.
Yeah.
Getting to the big luxury fashion houses, the Gucci's if you're watching, the Louis Vuitton if you're watching. But yeah, because we want to create experiences, and I think that's kind of where we're going. is we call ourselves experiences because we believe that websites, brand identities are not just assets. They should be able to pivot a brand into an experiential world. And so future facing is about creating experiences and ideas that can live out on their own without even creating design assets. So we want to be able to encapsulate brands in a way that a brand doesn't feel like a logo, but a brand feels like an immersive 360 experience, an immersive 360 idea, and an immersive 360 like just encapsulates the audience, the consumer, the viewers. We're really passionate about the experience side, and I think that's something that we'll be seeing getting blown out.
Just to add to that, I think a very good example, and it is sure that it's perceived in the early days of me getting into Webflow and understanding websites in general. There's a particular brand called Moy. They typically, I mean, they sell a lot of furniture work and all of that, but a lot of the time they do commission the website developers to build experiences for the brand and just, you know, have creativity to showcase their products. I think that's one idea of a place that we definitely want to get to, where you're not necessarily even paying us to just build a website so that you can sell your product, but you really trust our creativity and you want us to build new creative experiences for your customers to get immersed in. And that idea of creating new experiences and foolproof experiences is where we really want to get to, where people really trust us as, you know, creative top leaders, as opposed to people who just, you know, build this website so I can sell to clients. But I trust this guy to be creative, so go ahead and create what you want to, and we trust your vision and what you are going to create. That's definitely a dream goal.
I'm glad that you guys have managed to answer that question, because that is a really hard, quick question. Create immersive, creative experience. I love that. If you wish you knew one thing about starting out with Webflow when you started, what would it be?
Am I allowed to answer that? I think e-commerce. I wish I knew like some of the limitations that are in place for e-commerce, because we do get a lot of e-commerce inquiries. We're in a very digital age where people want to sell stuff, and there's some limitations with Webflow e-commerce that sometimes you can overpromise and realize that, you know, you don't necessarily have the capabilities of the tool to really deliver on that. I think that was one very apparent area that I was, you know, having to learn as I went along. That okay, you can't really necessarily do that, especially from the e-commerce aspect, and having to provide so other solutions to, you know, deliver on certain things that the clients wanted. I think that's one thing I wish I knew in the beginning, of like, you know, the kind of things you can do in Webflow as much as possible.
Asmah, do you have anything to add there?
Sorry?
Do you have anything to add?
No, not particularly. I think Nkenna is kind of like the Webflow expert in the group. So I'm only like telling anything he says on Webflow.
Okay, sure.
I think it's just being aware of your limitations and knowing like how to get around things, and then just feeling like, oh, okay, because you don't no tool really solves all your problems for you. So being aware of your limitations and knowing like other ways that I've been using which you can actually solve those problems based on the limitation that you have is really important, rather than just relying single-handedly heavily on one tool to solve all your problems for you.
Great answer. How do you guys deal with imposter syndrome? This is a question that keeps coming up.
You just do it on a daily basis. There's no medicine for it, just on a daily basis. And in some sense, just trusting a bit more in yourself and believing that, like, you know, the work that you're doing has a purpose, and, you know, believing in that, and just trying as much as possible to surround yourself with positivity from the work that you've done in the past, and, you know, the few good successes that you've had, and, you know, kind of motivating yourself. And it's very good as well to have a partner who you can also, you know, talk through this imposter syndrome, and they can remind you of certain things as well. And I think that's one thing that we do cherish in our relationship as the Black Studio, because we are already best friends. So, you know, having each other to like, oh, okay, I feel like, you know, I'm creating nonsense right now, and, you know, having somebody out there to remind you of like some of the things that you've built and stuff, and those can really help elevate you that. So I think it's something that you would definitely deal with. I'm not sure that it really goes away. I mean, if somebody has that fully gone away, then that's wonderful. But I think even to now, sitting right here, we deal with that on a daily basis, and we just take one day after another, and trusting in ourselves and getting back into that loop and trusting again.
Yeah, for sure. I think what Nkenna said about having a trusted person goes a long way. So it could even be a friend or a family member that you really trust, and kind of can be a mirror to how great that you are. I think would take you so far, because designing and working for yourself can get really lonely. And if you don't have anyone that can kind of be like a springboard, you get really deep into it, and you could lose everything. But I also wanted to add that it's okay to log off. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to not look at Twitter or Instagram. I find that a lot of times that I have imposter syndromes from seeing other people's work and wishing that I don't work like that, or wishing that I had plans like that. And I'll just log off, or I'll take a break from social. And a lot of times when I take a break from social, I'll work on client projects, or I'll work on personal projects as well, just to kind of reinforce that I'm good at this and I'm in a place that I'm supposed to be. So I know it sounds really cliche, but take time off if those doubts are really creeping in to the point that you can't manage, especially when it comes from places that you can take time off, like social, and which a lot of imposter syndrome really comes from seeing other people do stuff.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think it's also doing a bit of research yourself, because I think sometimes, like going back to the whole Twitter issue, I remember it's talk about Asmah to this a lot about this. You see some great websites and you think, oh, this is so wonderful, this particular person did it, and then if you do your research, you find out that actually 4 people, 5 people who have a combined experience of 10 years each. So you're talking about roughly collectively 40 years of experience working on one particular solution for a year. But you want to build out a website in 1 month and feel like I'm going to stop now. Like they've had that periods where they've learned as well and had their struggles, and they've combined all those experiences to create this fantastic piece. So just you reminding yourself that there is a journey, and on each of these design, this wonderful design that you're seeing on there, have a level of experience and a level of failures and successes that they're combining to create that solution. Is really, really important, because some of the work that you see, it's a combination of a lot of effort, a lot of people who are throwing ideas in. So you should remind yourself of that and remember that this one website I did is good because this is just me, and this is me just getting in just 5 months in, and this is what I can create. That's wonderful. You should be very proud of yourself.
Love that advice. Yeah. What projects are you currently working on that are really exciting? Can you share?
We're working on some very, very exciting ones at the moment. I mean, all I can just say is
Gucci.
Wait for the end of the year. I think
it's our most exciting time in the studio.
I think it's very exciting. Like the ones that you don't necessarily even dream of, and they just come in and it's like, oh wait, I didn't even necessarily think about this, and it just comes in and it's like, this is such a great fit, such a great solution that I'm creating here, and having to partner with some creatives that are really, really wonderful as well, and it's just like this is very exciting. But I think I'll just say, watch out the space, watch out towards the end of the year and the beginning of next year for the work that we're going to put out. I think there's some very, very great work out there that is going to come.
We're incredible people as well. I think if we can give a little hint, some of our exciting projects now are actually with other creatives.
Yeah.
So some really incredible people. I think that's what even makes it more exciting, because we're really like working with people with such great ideas that we have the honor to bring to life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah.
No names being dropped, but
that's the documents.
Hey, it's going to be big, guys. So yeah, keep your eyes on Black Pepper Studios portfolio. Are there any creatives that you guys look up to that maybe me and any other people watching right now should know about, but maybe don't?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that the names people already know them, to be honest. Personally, for me, Arisai Benoit is one definite person. Nicola Miranda is obviously a very great person as well. There's a couple of names that I'm sure I'm missing out right now. They do wonderful work, but Matt Wash Studio, they do very great work as well. Louis Bizarro as well. There's a couple of people that put out work. Victor Walk is another person that is amazing in the space as well. So I've been keen into what they're doing, and also learning a couple of things from them, because it's very important to get inspired and watch what other people are doing, because that's the only way you get better. So those for me will be the names I can say off the top of my head right now. But I think definitely Arisai Benoit and Nicola Miranda are my 2 biggest inspirations at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome.
Do you have any?
I was going to say Matt Wash as well, because we're really experiential. So we find that a lot of the creatives that we tend to gravitate towards are people, creatives designing experiences. So Matt Wash Studio as well. And also it shouts out to Shini Park. from Cubicle Studio, because we love a lot of editorial work, and I think for me personally, that was one creative that really exposed me into how experiential editorial work could actually get. I think that's the two top of my head. There are loads of other people that have like due rights and due credits, but yeah, those two.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for sharing those. So before I ask you the final question, where should people reach out to you if they wanted to ask any follow-up questions or anything?
Yeah.
So we're on Twitter. I'm just going to pull up
Studio.
TVP Studio. On Instagram as well. So the.blackpepperstudio. And our website, is theblackpepperstudio.com, and that has all our, so www.theblackpepperstudio.com, and that has all our contacts like Twitter, Instagram, and you can also, we're very happy to receive emails as well, because I think emails are really personal. So I'm Asmah at theblackpepperstudio.com and Nkenna at theblackpepperstudio.com.
Yeah.
Great. Are you guys ready for your final question?
Yes. Drum roll.
Drum roll, please. So this is a little bit harder. Okay. What is your next failure going to be?
Right. What's the next failure? I think it might be a case where you compromise on your values. So I mean, some of the things that we mentioned here today, and forgetting that, for example, when you feel like, okay, I mean, so for example, you can never really predict the future. So for example, if we do have a downturn in terms of like client work and everything, and taking projects that we know we're not necessarily aligned with, that could be an area where, you know, and for say, for example, we take it on and the project doesn't necessarily go really well because we're already aware of all of these things and we know we don't necessarily fit into that role. So that could be an avenue where a potential failure could occur. But I think it's a very hard question to really say, to give an answer to, but I think that could be a potential area where, you know, you're just taking on work because you just want to, you know, take that work on for monetary sake, for example, as opposed to what you're really truly passionate about and what you're truly aligned with, and this really fits into the ethos and business and the values of the Black Pepper Studio. That could be one area.
But I also think expanding the studio as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we recognize the need to expand the studio, but I think we're quote unquote too busy to expand the studio. Yeah. So it's all just like rattling in itself because we need more hands, but we also don't have the time to properly recruit and figure out our next steps. And we can also already see how that is kind of biting us. And we hope it doesn't turn into a failure, but we can almost see how that could be our next failure.
I mean, getting new people on board that share the same profession that you have is obviously a very hard thing to do. So hiring has always been a problem. That's why you have hiring agencies and all of that. So obviously getting new people on board could be a potential area where, you know, they don't necessarily fit the values that we have in our heads or in our hearts of what we want to take the studio to. That could be a potential area, or just, you know, over bloating or overgrowing. So because sometimes there's a stage for growth. So, you know, having a bit of business and you feel like, okay, I need more people might not necessarily be the reason why you should necessarily hire people. It could just be a case where maybe you can span out your projects a little bit more, and that could really solve your problem. So I think there's a stage for growth, and it's really whether you're keen to that stage of growth at the right time. And for us, is going to be really important. And if we do get that right or wrong, that could be a potential failure or a great success. So it's getting that balance at the same time.
Sounds like we need to do another episode in a year's time.
Yeah.
Fascinating, guys. I could talk to you guys for hours, but we have gone over 1 hour by almost a quarter of an hour. So thanks for anyone that's been watching this whole time. Brianna says, both of you guys are absolute gems, such a fan of the studio, and both of you as individuals, thank you for sharing this great advice with us.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
And Brianna is a big fan of Webflow generally, so thank you to Brianna. All right, then, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on the show, telling us so vulnerably about your failures, and dropping some absolute truth bombs. I am sure that you will navigate through the next stage of your agency very admirably. There won't be so much as failures as learnings. That's what this whole thing's about. So, yeah, either way, I wish you all the best with your next stage. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. We're really delighted to have this conversation with you. I think even exposed and made us think about some things that we were not necessarily thinking about, and being aware of that. So we're very glad and happy to have chatted with you today, and definitely wish you the best with the show and growing your own audience as well.
Thank you guys. You guys are absolute pleasure. I need to have you guys on again. So for anyone that's watching now and wondering when this is going to be edited, this is going to be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts next week on Monday. It will go out in the newsletter on Tuesday. So if you guys want to sign up to the Webflail Roundup, to sign up to the newsletter, that will be in the show notes of this video. Guys, do you have any final advice for anyone watching? Or do you feel like you've shared everything you want to share?
I think pretty much.
I think just trust yourself. If you're going through that journey, trust yourself. Align with people, get as much friends as possible in the space. Learn from others. Always keep inspiring yourself. Always keep having an inspiration source by looking outside, looking at your surroundings and your environment, and learning from that. And believing in yourself. Your project is not a definition of you. Definitely don't take that project failure as something personal that reflects on your life. It is one design flaw, and people at big organizations do feel it all the time. So just remind yourself that you're not a definition of your failures in your workspace, and it is a line between you being passionate about what you do and also the work that you put out. So I would just say take it easy, grow, learn, appreciate your journey, because the journey is really important as well.
Yeah, just to add to that, there is space for everyone.
Yeah,
there definitely is enough space, enough to go around. So don't ever feel like you can't make a difference in the design community, because I think everyone absolutely can.
Yeah, that is one thing for sure. There are $1,000 clients. There's going to be $100,000 clients. There are clients in your vertical. There will always be clients in your vertical. There is space for everyone. The space is the demand is way too big for the supply, and it will always be like that. Hopefully, but clearly there's always been like that. So know that there is always that space for you. Listening, definitely there's space for you.
Thank you. I think I needed to hear that. Sorry. Thanks so much for coming on the show, guys. And until next time, Webflailers. Bye then.
Bye.
Bye.